My political panel joins me now. Kadia Goba is a political reporter for Semaphore. Jennifer Rubin is an MSNBC political analyst and opinion writer for The Washington Post. Nayera Huck is a former State Department senior advisor and former White House senior director. And former Republican Congressman David Jolly is with us. He is an MSNBC political analyst. Thank you. Congressman, we had the ladies hold down the studio today. Kadia, I want to start with you because this was a crazy and chaotic week. But let's talk about the government funding deadlines. What are you hearing from members? What is going to be different come January or February? Because it seems like they're in a very precarious position.
They are. And what I'm hearing is in January, it's going to be a madhouse just because pushing the deadline to earlier in January doesn't really save face or address the issues that they're having. Right now, members of Congress can't pass the appropriations bills, and that's why we're here now, because the whole gist was get these 12 appropriations bills across the line. They can't do it. I don't see where things are changing now. I mean, maybe things will change because they are getting a little 2-week break. You know, I attributed a lot of this chaos because they've been in session for 10 weeks. We'll see when they get back to see if they could coalesce around some kind of legislation.
You know, my stepson goes to school almost all year round, gets a break on the regular times, and, you know, he and his classmates seem to figure it out, and he's 8. Congressman, what needs to happen for this Congress to be productive? Is there something else that Speaker Johnson can do? Or are some of the members, particularly we're seeing male members of Congress, Republicans, are they just too emotional to lead?
I like your take, Simone. My wife saw the events this week and said it's a reason to elect more women. And I think
I've
she's
always
exactly
been a fan
right.
of your wife.
So listen, I think we can't expect this to be a governing coalition because they've spent 2 decades becoming a party that believes government is the enemy, right? They traditionally were the less government coalition. Then it became a no government party under the Tea Party. And then with Donald Trump, government's the enemy. So why would we trust that they can then exercise the responsibility of governing? They can't. And to the point of January, I think we will see this play out in January. As you and I discussed last night, I think Mike Johnson shuts the government down in January. He got away with working with Democrats in this current environment because he could. He's not going to be able to get away with it in January. The reality is it will take working with Democrats. We saw that with the debt limit. We saw that with the CR under McCarthy and now Johnson. Mike Johnson cannot work with Democrats in January. He has to stand up for his right flank. And as a result, I think he will take the gamble to shut down the government.
So if he does do this, Jennifer, you wrote this week that moderate Republicans, it will be moderate Republicans that will own a shutdown if a shutdown happens. Tell us why it would be moderate Republicans.
Well, I use the term euphemistically, moderates, because they keep insisting that they are moderates. Unfortunately, they simply go along with the most extreme members of their coalition. But remember, when it came to the debt ceiling, when it came to the first shutdown threat, when it came to this one, they never stand up to the right wing. They never go to the Democrats and say, listen, let's make a deal. Let's have an understanding, for example, on aid for Israel, aid for Ukraine. They don't buck their own leadership because they go through life scared to death that they're going to be primaried. And as a result, these moderates are simply spineless versions of the more radical people in the party.
Yeah, what role does or should the White House play in these negotiations? I remember early in the week when Mike Johnson had a deal, or this weekend, actually last weekend, the White House came out and they called it an unserious proposal. And then the White House changed their tune because they, too, realized that this was the only avenue. So what role should they play going into January?
Well, heading into January is heading into 2024, which is an election year, right? So that is top of mind, even though it's a Rose Garden strategy of having the president speak with the power of the White House podium. That is a consideration. Now, for President Biden, much of this is going to be blaming Congress and the heir apparent for the Republican Party, former President Donald Trump. The challenge is that at the end of the day, the responsibility by the Constitution to figure out what to do with our tax dollars belongs to Congress. So people need to send different members of Congress who are serious to actually make sure that our government can function.
Every member of Congress, of the House, is up for re-election come 2024. Let's talk about one of those members in particular. I'm talking about George Santos. We have to talk about him. Okay, Congressman Santos announced that he would not be seeking re-election next year, but for some of his Republican colleagues, that exit is not soon enough. Now, he made this announcement after the House Ethics Committee released a damning report on Santos's use of campaign funds. Committee Chairman Michael Guest of Mississippi introduced a resolution to expel Santos from Congress. This is what the report found. It was kind of wild. Santos used campaign funds for $6 grand on Ferragamo, more than $4,000 at Hermes, more than $2,000 in Atlantic City, honey. Rent, okay, credit card payments, $1,400 on Botox. He also spent money on OnlyFans and at Sephora. Oh, my. A number of Republicans have come out in favor of expulsion, but it takes a 2/3 vote. Kadia, what is going to happen come post-Thanksgiving when members get back that Monday, Tuesday? Is George Santos going to be expelled from Congress?
I think the likeliness is yes, just because not only Republicans are saying that they'll vote this time to expel him, but Democrats who stood by the notion that, you know, we have to wait until there's some kind of report or he is convicted. They are turning and saying that, no, it's time for him to go. I spoke to, we were the first to report that he was not going to seek election. I think he's been prepared for this some time now. I think he was prepared the last time. I was probably surprised that it didn't happen. I think he's prepared that it will happen this time.
I mean, I would like to use the remaining time in this panel to just talk the OnlyFans, the Sephora. Like,
do we really think he's the only one, right, who has been misusing campaign funds, considering how much time members of Congress now have to spend on the phone raising dollars? Like, the system is now designed that you have to raise millions of dollars to represent a community of, what, 500,000 or so people? So in a system like that, I'm sure it's rife with ethics violations. His challenge is that he's been so over the top. Right, that it was
the lies that preceded this.
Right. The volleyball championship, the schools he didn't attend, let alone
Jewish.
Yes, all of that. But, you know, for someone who spent this much on Botox, on, you know where I'm going on this, on cosmetics, on clothes, shouldn't he look better than he does?
Jennifer Rubin, I'm not going to do it. Now, I did like those red Ferragamos, honey. They were cute. He wore them on Sneaker Day in Congress.